Hello, hello. Welcome to the April episode of Vegetables Matter. This is a craft cast about my fiber life. So this episode, that's going to include knitting, spinning, and then vegetables. So garden stuff as well. It's springtime, so I've been really focused out in the garden, and that's been really fun. We're in the middle of COVID-19 pandemic stuff. We were just at the beginnings of it within the US last time. It was not yet a pandemic, so that's been a whole interesting thing to navigate. I'm really fortunate. I still have my job. It's challenging to figure out how to do it from home, but I feel really, really lucky about that. And I guess that's all I want to say about it. So in the last episode, I talked about how I'd kind of lost my knitting mojo for a while. And I had all these different projects started, but nothing was really at a place to show. And I basically finished all of that stuff. So I'm going to show it here now. It's really funny because Caliesha, or Nadir Tani from the Quirky Monday Craftcast, has an annual Pisces season make-along. That's her birthday time, and this was her second year doing it, and it's just really open to just watery colors or themes or anything like that, which is just me as well. And so I was really wanting to have some of these projects work for that, but then everything had a little hitch going on with it. So I wasn't able to complete anything, although I did have a little extra project, which is what I was working on last time. That was the one thing I got finished, but everything else would work for it. And anyway, so I'm kind of thinking that this whole thing, even though things started before and ended after, but this is kind of my Pisces season make-along episode. So the first thing to show is what I was working on last time, which are dishcloths. Really simple. I just chose this really, really simple pattern, and it was really nice just to have something to work on that wasn't having problems. I ended up doing 4 of them. I had 2 balls of the yarn. It is Wool and the Gang Billie Jean yarn, and it's 100% upcycled denim. And I had gotten these a while ago to make some dishcloths with, and it was a pleasure to do it. I really, really enjoyed working with the yarn. I would definitely consider doing not just dishcloths with it, but even doing some type of summer garment as well. I think could be really nice. It's a worsted weight, and so I think that made me think it wouldn't be as good for a summer garment. And then obviously being denim, it's not as good for a winter garment either. But I do think it could be nice for a summer garment at this point. So I have 4 of these, and these are going into the long range planning box. I do have some leftovers. Possibly the 2 of them together could make another one, or I don't know. We'll see what I do with those leftovers. The next project is the Birds and Ships cowl. Birds and Ships cowl? Yep, Birds and Ships cowl. I didn't write that part down. I'm not sure. So this is finished, kind of. Here it is. I used a much finer yarn than was called for, so I basically just did the general principle, but just kind of did it to my measurements. Plus, I didn't want mine to be so much a cowl, although it does work as that. Instead, I wanted it to be another hat-dana style thing. And I'm sorry, this is silly of me. I should have my hair down so I could show you, although it can still do this part. It's significantly looser than the hat-dana. And it's quite a different shape than it as well. And I think ultimately this shape doesn't work quite as well, although there are some things I like about it. So first of all, just to show the shape, like when I put it on normally, it's just much wider at the bottom end of it. And so instead of kind of gathering things back, it just kind of is a bit loose. And I've debated on how much I care about that. At this point, I think that it's fine, especially because there are ways in which it fits that I really like, and that's a little more important to me. So yeah, here's the hat Dana, which is this shape. This is the top of it that goes down the center, whereas this has a straight edge for that top part rather than the diagonal edge. Let's see, so again, that's the top. Yeah, so just a really different shape. And I do think this is a better shape, but it's good to explore that. So I'm happy about having done this. I have thought about ripping it out and kind of changing it and bringing it in more. But I think now if I'm to do anything, rather than ripping it out, I would really have to rip it out almost all the way, and I've already done that once. That I think I would just maybe do like some little gathers or pleats just to kind of make it come in a little bit more. I think that might work. But I need another head to measure it on in order to do that, and I don't have that right now. So I think for now it works. The things I do like about it, I love, love, love the blues. I mean, this is my hand spun. Okay, so the yarn is Rommeldale, a fleece that I purchased at the Great Basin Fiber Arts Fair, processed by Spinderellas into this fingering weight, DK, something like that, yarn. And then I dyed it with copper, walnut, and indigo. And I was going for some self-striping. It definitely doesn't have the bigger chunks. I think I'd need even longer chunks in order for that to happen. But I just think it turned out really, really beautifully. Another thing I really like about it is when I am wearing it as the hat Dana like this, it really cozies over my ears really well. And to sleeping with it, it just kind of stays there. It does maybe fall forward a little bit, but that still keeps me quite warm when I'm sleeping. Whereas when this one starts slipping, it starts slipping back, and that doesn't keep me as warm. I have to like bring it all the way forward and then back again in order to get it back on. I can't just tug it forward or else my hair starts, being all scawampus. And so I think that there's some things about the fit of this one that I like a lot. So this is a style that I really like and will continue to make throughout my life. I feel quite certain. And here's the second one. And yeah, again, it also works as a cowl. I think it's a useful piece. Although I guess if I do the pleats, it might not work as well for the cowl. Interesting to think about. Anyway, there's that. Oh, one more thing about the design is I was supposed to continue with the garter stitch until I joined it. But when I did that, because I wanted mine to be shorter for the hat Dana style, then I only had just a little bit of stockinette before I was wanting to cast off. And so then I had to rip back and start the stockinette stitch earlier than that. And I think it still could have been even earlier, but I think it works out pretty well. Oh, I still have one more end to weave in because I finished this and then I was in the car and then it got too dark. I did all of the weaving in of ends in the tassel, but then there was one more end and I just couldn't see. And then as I was debating whether or not I might rip out more, then I wasn't in a hurry, but I do still need to weave in that one end. Another thing with that is I was really wanting to use the leftovers from it to make another Bluebird of Happiness, but I just felt like I haven't been able to cast on with it because I haven't made a decision. I'm feeling pretty certain though now that I do just want it like that, so I probably can cast on, but I might still hold off. But Bluebirds of Happiness, I have made two. I got to make one with the remnants of my Hatdana, and that is that little cutie. This is definitely one that I'm going to keep for myself. Yeah, this is hand spun yarn from a drop spindle, which is the only hand spun from a drop spindle I have, and I just love the colors, and this one's really special to me and it matches my Hatdana. So this one's for me. And then I also made another one with this blue indigo dyed yarn. This one's a little bit funny because you can see through the stitches into the stuffing. I probably should have used, well, I definitely should have used a smaller needle size because that's not ideal about it, but oh well, it's still cute. Yeah, so I've gotten on another Bluebird of Happiness kick, which is a pattern by, I have it right here. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. Oh, on the pattern, she doesn't say her name. Fantastic, clever pattern. I made quite a few last year and gave them away. Well, I kept a couple for myself, and it's been really fun to pick up the pattern again. And I don't know, they're just so lovely. They don't take that long. They use up some scraps. They use up some stuffing because, you know, when I'm spinning, I just kind of put aside little bits and pieces, and so I accumulate stuffing, so it's good to use it up for that. And then it's just little gifts that I can give to people. As a maker, so often projects can be so long and involved, it's hard to give as freely of them as you would like. You just don't have the time, but this is something that you can make and give to this lovely friend and that lovely friend. And yeah, it's just really, really fun to be able to share this with people. Okay, and lastly, sort of, I have my hoarfrost cowl. So I think the last time I showed it, it was finished and I wanted to change it. So I unpicked all of that and I knit more, and then I sewed it all down. And then what actually took me quite a while was the drawstring itself. So first let me show you. I love it. I think it absolutely works. I think that the problems that I had with it before are solved now. You know, it can still be kind of loose, which I do like seeing the underside of it, but then I can cinch it up and have it be a little bit tighter, especially if my hair's down, it can really tighten up. And oh, it's really warm. Oh, it's a warm day. We've been having a lot of quite cold weather. In fact, I've been wearing long johns and, you know, rarely down to a t-shirt, and often just having more layers until today. And now it's just a beautiful day. Oh yeah, so the drawstring. So I was debating a number of different ways of doing the drawstring. I was debating having it white, having it be blue, having it be a combo of the two. I decided to go for the blue. And then first I tried doing like a twist, and that just didn't seem right. Although maybe if I'd done like more strands in the twist, that would have worked. Oh, sorry, I have a microphone that probably didn't work very well. So I tried doing the twist. It just didn't feel quite sturdy enough. Although if I'd used more strands, maybe it would have gotten there. I tried doing two different sizes of 4 plaited braids, but they just didn't seem quite right. And finally I decided on this I-cord, which I think I'm really happy with. First I tried doing 6 stitches and that felt too thick, and so then this ended up being 4 stitch I-cord. One thing though is that here where it's cinching, I've worn this around a little bit since then, and it's beginning to get blue from the indigo. Definitely knitting this, my hands would get really blue. And so I am thinking about maybe redoing this I-cord in the cream color instead so that it won't do that. Yeah, I think I might. So the yarn for this I got at Farm to Yarn in Cortez, Colorado, and the cream is brown sheep yarn, worsted weight. And then the blue, I feel quite sure, used that same base, but then it was by woolly lizard. Yeah, woolly lizard had dyed it with indigo. So yeah, and then that's what this bird ended up being made of, is that same thing. Super pleased with this. It has been cold, but the weather is finally warming up, so I probably won't wear it much until the next cool season, but I'm really, really pleased that I continued working with it until it worked, and I think it absolutely does, and I'm pretty thrilled about it. Okay, I said that was the last thing, kind of. So the other thing is just a segue into the next section for spinning. I have a half object. I have one glove. I think it looks a little bit funny, but it's for my husband, and it does fit on his hand. It looks a little weird on me. I promise it does fit him like a glove. So this is hand spun Icelandic 3-ply chain ply / Navajo ply. And I only have this much of it left. So that is what is on the spinning wheel. So that's why for the Pisces season make-along, I had all of these projects. This one, the dishcloths, and then even like I felt like if I had just been able to spin the Icelandic and then dye it indigo, like that could have been a finished object to have included in it as well. But I knew that wasn't going to happen because I had a queue. I first had to finish spinning the Angora and then the Icelandic. So I knew that wasn't going to happen. But I just had all of these projects. And then once I finished that, then I could finish this. But I did get this 100% finished and even woven all of the ends. So that feels really good that I'm at such a good place there. Yeah, so now I'm pretty eager about continuing the spin so that I can just keep working on that. And then I've also been tossing my stash. So airing out my stash, pulling it all out, kind of looking at it, checking to make sure there's no crazy things in it. And also it's just a good experience to look at what I have and get inspired. So doing that, my spinning queue got a little longer. I feel quite determined to not buy anything more for spinning this entire year. I've got plenty of stuff to work on. I think it'll feel good to work through it, and then maybe next year I can let some more stuff into my life. As far as knitting as well, like I just feel pretty determined not to be buying any fiber. I feel like I have a lot that I'd like to use up before I bring anything more in. There's a chance I might buy like a skein of sock yarn or something to be able to do a little pair of socks at some point, but mostly I just want to be using stash. I think that's it for knitting, stashing. I'll send you over to the spinning wheel now to do a little bit of talk about that. So here I am at the spinning wheel. I'm spinning up the Icelandic for the mittens. This is a fleece that I got a number of years ago locally, and I've knit a sweater out of it. It was kind of my first real spin. I'd done a little bit before that, but really my first spin. And I've showed that sweater here. So I guess not much more to say, except it's been good to be spinning with this again. I've had to be carding it up a lot, which for a while I hadn't carded for. Okay, so when I first got into spinning, that's all I did. It's just, you know, the whole starting from a fleece, getting it prepared, all of that. That's the way I did it. And it can be a bit of a pain in the butt sometimes. Sometimes you just want to spin and not have to do all the carding. So I think after that I did start accumulating different rovings, and it's really, really nice. I mean, I remember, having some rovings for the first time, and it was just like, oh my gosh, I can just spin. It's so easy. And then I think I got a little bit too into that. And the last little while, I think I've really craved being more involved in each step of the process. So I've been doing that, which has been good. And it's also quenched that thirst. And I'm also feeling again like, oh yeah, and it's so nice to not have to do this all the time, because it can take a long time. I mean, I've sat down maybe 2 or 3 times to card this stuff up, you know, and one day in particular, I remember, I carded for hours, like 2 or 3 hours, and I wound up with 4 bats plus some, maybe 1.5 that had gone through the drum carder once. With this, I've been putting them through twice. Anyway, so it takes a long time. But I feel good. I have quite a few bats, and then I have some bats that have gone through once again, and then I still have a bag of more. So it'll be good to get all the way through this. I had actually gone through all of the fleece that was for me. I had gotten some for some friends as well, and then one friend hadn't particularly used stuff, and so I ended up acquiring her stash of it, which is why I have this, which is good because I had already finished. In fact, probably the spin that I did that ended up being Dawood's mittens, that was using up. I did 2 skeins that used up the last of it, and that was one of them. So glad that I have more so I can continue spinning for that. Of course, before this, what I showed in my last craft cast was the Angora spin. So I had purchased an ounce of Angora a couple years ago at a fiber fair, and I spun that up, and it was really fun to spin. It was challenging. I mean, Angora is quite slick. It was good. I enjoyed the challenge, and I also challenged myself to spin as finely as possible. So even though it was only an ounce, it only looks like this much, this took me a long time. Like, this is hours and hours of work. When I switched to the Icelandic, it was quite a shock and an adjustment, and I knew I wanted it to be thicker to match what I had previously spun, and so I was doing what I thought was thicker, and then I was like, oh no, that still is so much thinner than it needs to be. And so it took me a while to kind of get into that groovy spot again, but I feel like I'm pretty much there. And at this point, I've maybe done on par the time with that. Maybe not though. That took a long time. And this probably, even though it looks like so much more, it probably still hasn't taken me as long as that. So this is good and exciting. It's good to work through stuff. Like I said, I have been going through my stash, and so I've come up with some other little things that have made it into the queue. Already in the queue was the Icelandic, which is actually for 2 projects. First for the mittens, but then I also want to create some to do some alterations to the sweater that I had originally done. So lots of this still to spin, although I might take a break after I've done the Navajo plying for the mittens and spin some other things before I return to the Icelandic, because there's so many fun things in the queue. The Angora, the plan with that is to end up doing a 3-ply as well. 1 ply with the Angora, 1 ply with silk, and 1 ply with some type of wool. I pulled out some merino for it, which I may use, or I also have some rambouillet that could be nice, that's local, rather than the merino was just sent to me when I purchased a drum carder. It's just some leftovers that I have. So I'll have a 3-ply of that ultimately. So that was the plan to do right after this. I've pulled out some other things though, and so I'll see what order I ended up doing them. This year, I've been wanting to make mittens for people in my family, and I don't know that I'll get through to everyone, but I was thinking about mittens for my dad the other day, and I think there's a pattern that I like quite a bit that's like a honeycomb pattern, so I was wanting some yellow yarn for that. And I don't have anything in my stash particularly, but again, airing out the stash, I came across this. There's quite a bit of stuff in here. Is there more underneath? This is, again, right around the same time that I got the Icelandic. Locally, even more locally, the Icelandic was maybe an hour or two away from me, whereas this is in my town. This is a bunch of Suffolk, and it was super, super cheap. Me and my friends got tons of it, and I was learning a lot from a friend at the time, and she was doing a lot of natural dyeing. And I don't think that I was as interested in natural dyeing. I had just kind of gotten access to a wheel and was just thrilled about that, and so that was really my focus. But other people were dyeing, and so I kind of got in on some dye baths. So there are two different yellows here. There's a deeper yellow, which is rabbit brush, and then there's a lighter yellow, which is goldenrod. And then there's also a little bit of undyed stuff at the bottom as well. And so I thought, this is actually the very last of the Suffolk. And I mean, at a certain point, I think we got this for like $1 a pound. And so we had pounds and pounds and pounds of it. And I've been working my way through it. And I mean, it just seemed like I would always have some. And so to be pulling out my stash and realize this is all I have left, and there's a project that I think I might want to make with it, is really cool. I don't know that there would be enough for the mittens for him. It's hard to visualize. I mean, it seems like plenty. Like, it's got to be enough. Again, though, the bottom isn't yellow, and this yellow at the top is the brightest. But I also came across some other things that were kind of golden-y. They weren't the Suffolk, like some targi and some things like that I thought I could also ply them together if I need more. So anyway, this will be a fun project to work on and work my way through. Again, I'd have to card it all. So yeah, I'm excited to have that around. And then at the very end, I had this stuff laying out, and I decided to bring it in because this could just be, sometimes in between projects, it's nice just to do a little sample of something, and these are all just some little samples. And I thought, oh, that could be fun just as a quick little project in between something. So this is all stuff I've recently dyed. I've showed it all on the craft cast. Some cotton that, let's see, there's all this pink. Oh yeah, all this pink was dyed with safflower. Hemp, silk, linen, and cotton. And then this one I overdyed with some indigo as well. So anyway, I just brought these in, and I'm quite looking forward to just playing around and experimenting with them. I've actually never spun with silk, so that'll be fun. And there's a chance that this would be the silk that goes with this. I really like how this pink turned out. It's very corally, I would say. Rather than more pink like those ones. So those are fun to bring in and just have some samples. I think they'll be quite refreshing. That's everything for spinning. I guess just one last thing that I brought in. Again, I've only done that one spin that was the Hat Dana on a drop spindle. And I had started this a while ago, but just wasn't, I don't know, it just didn't feel like it was quite what I wanted, but I think that it is. I think I just want to spin this, and I think I'll probably dye it some more. The color isn't fantastic. It's a black bean dye. That's what it is. Rambouillet. But I think it'll be great just to spin. And so I've mentioned we're building a house down in Torrey, and I actually think that drop spinning is a nice fibery craft to bring while I'm down there. Something I prefer to drop spin while standing, and it's something that can be done around a fire really easily, you know, after a day's work. So yeah, and I can talk, and it can be relaxing. I don't have to be kind of withdrawn and knitting or something like that. Sometimes knitting can be intensive like that. So I brought that out as well as an option. And now that's everything. I'll send you back out to talk about some garden stuff. All right, see ya. Lastly, I want to talk about the garden. Spring is here, so I've been focusing a lot on that. I've got peas, lettuces, and spinach in the ground that are popping up. The spinach was doing a lot better, but the cat uses it as her litter box. Whenever I like weed something and get it all prepared, and she's just like, "Oh, you prepared this so nicely for me." So I don't really fight with that too much. I don't know, it is what it is, and she does need to go to the bathroom somewhere. So anyway, but the spinach has been slowly getting more and more demolished. But I figure, in those spaces later on, I'll have some stuff being like, I need space. And I'll be like, oh, look, here's a random spot here and there. So I'll fill it in. Let's see, yesterday I also planted some radishes and beets. I want to keep planting more beets and carrots. I've had probably 2 or 3 different times getting some indoor starts going. So the ones that have popped up so far are some tomatoes and peppers and marigolds. Yeah, and then also I have started some Hopi sunflowers, yesterday I started up a bunch more dye plants as well. So Hopi sunflowers I had already done, but then Murasaki and Dyer's chamomile and Dyer's coreopsis. Sorry, I haven't actually started all of these. Okay, back up. So I was going to go to the Great Basin Fiber Arts Fair this year, like I always do, but of course it's been canceled. And so I decided that I just needed to order some seeds from my local seed place, where I usually get seeds and dye stuff from them there. Grand Prismatic Seed, they're fantastic. And that was kind of the main thing that I wanted from the fiber fair this year, was getting dye stuff, again, because I feel like I have enough fiber that I'd really like to work through. And so it's all about the dye stuff. So I ordered a bunch of stuff from them. They were out of indigo, which I was really sad about. I would have liked to have started that. And they were also out of black hollyhock. So instead of getting black hollyhock seeds, I just ordered some dye stuff from them. Why didn't I bring out any of this stuff? I'm sorry, I didn't. And I don't want to go get it. And then I started Murasaki, which is similar, it sounds like, in how it grows, in using the roots after they've matured for several years to madder. So Murasaki and madder. I started some Murasaki. I haven't started madder yet. I've decided to wait until I can just direct sow it outside. And let's see, Murasaki, madder, those 2. And then, like I said, the Dyer's chamomile, Dyer's coreopsis, Tango Cosmos Tango, something like that. And something else, I think. Something like that. So getting those started, and then, sorry, I should have written this down so it was easier. And then what other veggies do I have? Oh yeah, I started a couple weeks ago, but they haven't sprouted yet. Or I forget how long ago, maybe a week ago, a bunch of cucurbits. How do you say that word? Cucurbits. So watermelon, zucchini, spaghetti squash, and then candy roaster. That's a type that Megan gave me, which is really cool because she said that it is in a different family than the other ones. And so, I mean, squash, you can't really plant different squash together because they like cross-pollinate, or I guess you can't save seeds. Anyway, this one, it's different, so it doesn't cross-pollinate with other things. So that's a cool aspect of it. yeah, so that, yeah, it's been really good to do garden stuff, and I just have lots more that I want to be doing. And, you know, right now, while we're all not able to go out and about, I mean, it feels really good and feels like what I want to do, to just be working in the garden. And food security as well. The chicks are laying like crazy. I've been able to give out eggs to different friends. And yeah, it's been really fun. With when the pandemic first really hit here, you know, people were just like bombarding the grocery stores and buying everything. And, you know, I had some different things, and I just thought, you know, like the chicks at that point had started laying about 3 eggs a day. They're up to about 5 now. And, you know, I just thought, you know, I'm not going to starve. Like, I'm going to be fine. We had just gotten a new thing of feed for the chickens. So I was like, we'll be okay for a few months, and you know, we're not going to starve. We might run out of water. That would suck, to die of thirst. But obviously, everything's been fine in that regard. So let's see. I'm going to do a little walk around for the trees here. Here's this beauty that I'm next to, and I filmed a little video just talking about the trees, because I just really enjoy spending time with them and seeing them grow and seeing their different personalities, if you can call it that, and just having a relationship with them. So I'm going to share that with you, and I hope you enjoy that. See, so I've planted 8 fruit-bearing trees in this circle. And I wanted to share them with you, just kind of talk about them. This first one that we're looking at, this is an Asian pear, or a nashi tree. And this one's been quite interesting. We have 2 pear trees, and they really, do you see how skinny that trunk is? Especially this one, it did not grow at all last year. It had leaves, it looked healthy, but it just didn't grow at all. So I think that it just kind of needed a year, and I think this year it's going to be wonderful. You can see it is just in full bloom. This is probably the gem this year, and I'm really excited to see what it does. The year before last, it produced a lot of really small fruits. So that year, it was one of the only trees to have produced fruits. We planted these trees probably about 3 years ago. And so this one, I think that next year, it produced lots of fruits. And then the next year is like, nah, I just kind of need to do something else. And now it's growing. So I'm really excited to see this one. And look at how beautiful that is. The next tree over here is the other pear tree. This is a Bartlett pear. So they fertilize each other. And again, this one, I mean, right now the plum trees are in bloom. Everything else is kind of past its prime. My camera is making all of these funny sounds. I'm sorry about that. Anyway, again, you can see this one's trunk is significantly thicker, but it is as well, like these plum trees just don't grow as quickly as the other trees. So anyway, but it's looking really good. I'm excited to taste its fruit. Last year it produced quite a few fruit. They were delicious, delicious, delicious. Next is the nectarine tree. This tree has been so fantastically crazy. It just grows all over the place. We've had to trim it back a lot because it's just kind of all of these runners. Is that what they call it, runners? Probably not, but just like crazy things all over the place. We probably haven't been doing the best job at pruning it. I guess I don't really know how, but this one's just fantastically crazy. It kept not producing any fruit though. But then last year it produced like mad and kind of overdid itself. And now this year it is looking rather sad. The blossoms on it, I don't know, it's been quite cold. Today is the exception, but it's been quite cold. And, can I get that in focus? So some, a few blossoms would blossom and then it would just get cold and they would turn brown and die. And now if you look over here, all of these ones that are just beginning, they're dead now. I think it just kind of did stuff a little bit too early, or there was just cold weather that it wasn't able to handle. So, over here you can just see it's just not the happiest tree. I think it's just been kind of exuberantly alive and maybe burning the candle from both ends. And I think it just needs this year to rest and won't be doing quite as much. I've been giving it some good positive talking, just telling it that it is going to be okay. It's going to pull through this year, and its core is still alive, and we all go through some bumps and bruises. So anyway, love this little tree. The next beauty is this nectarine tree. It's produced beautiful fruit. It's a little bit hard to see. It's getting lost in the trees behind it. Maybe I'll come a little closer. Yeah, it's just a really beautiful shape. It's produced a few delicious fruits and just kind of been a slow and steady grower. Yeah, and I see no change for this year. So way to go, little nectarine tree. And then we have the apple tree. This is a pink lady apple. And yeah, pretty similar with this one. Just really nice shape. Again, slow and steady growth. It's got some really pretty, well, it's so fascinating to me how the different trees grow. You know, some of them, it's just like the blossoms that are coming out first, and some of them it's just the leaves, and then they kind of do some combos of different things. And there's so much more to learn, and you know, I am learning, but yeah, there's always more, and they're teaching me many wonderful things. But if you come over here, you can see that this has some really beautiful buds forming with this deep dark pink color. So really looking forward to this one budding out. And then, oh yeah, you've probably been seeing there's all these skeins of yarn hanging out. This is continuing to toss the stash. So this stuff's all airing out, just making sure there's no little moths that are in it. Okay, next up is we have our sad little peach tree. This one has kind of struggled. It's got a split trunk. Half of it is almost dead, but it's pulling through. I'm hoping it can pull through. It's kind of a funky shape. Yeah, it's a sweet little one, and yeah, nothing much more to say about it. I really love the deep dark pink of the blossoms. I love the whole range from white to lighter pinks to darker pinks. Really nice. Next up is the cherry tree. So this one's quite fun and exciting. When we planted all these trees, we had a cherry tree, but then this one died, and so we replaced it last year. So you can see when we bought it last year, it just went to here. Sorry, it's hard to show this. And it just grew so well. It grew all of that last year, and it's just looking bright and beautiful and healthy, and I look forward to seeing its growth this year. So this is our little newbie. And then the last tree is an almond tree, and this one's been really fun. This one, when we bought it, it almost died that first year. It seemed dead, and then this little tiny core of life stayed alive, shot out new growth. I had to trim back all of the branches that it had before because they were just all dead. And it's really hard to tell if this is in focus. Okay, sorry. Yeah, and it has just been growing beautifully. It's now the tallest tree, so it started off, you know, really having a rough start, and it's just doing beautifully. Last year we got 2.5 dozen almonds off of it, and I could tell from where the almonds were that it only will grow almonds on like second year growth, and so I think this year we'll have a lot more because now it's just so much more established growth. Yeah, so looking forward to that. And then back to the beautiful pear trees. fully in bloom. In the back of the yard here, we have a plum tree. This was here when we got here. It's nicely in bloom, although beginning to fade as well now. It has only sporadically produced fruit. And then we also have these little pine trees. These are Austrian pines. We have 3 of them that we planted like a year and a half ago. So last year was our first full growing season, and they all seem like they're doing well. Yeah, it's fun to see their new growth. This one's the tallest one already, and the new growth that's there is also the tallest. Yeah. So it's really fun seeing these little trees grow. I hope you're having good times where you are. I know this has been a real challenge for a lot of people, and I sympathize really deeply, especially if you've lost your job and are having to be stressed and worried about those things. I'm so lucky that I'm not in a position where those are my stresses at all. My life is relatively normal right now. I'm very introverted, so I'm actually really happy. In fact, my husband is down in Torrey right now, and I feel really happy that I finally get some true time alone, because he hadn't been going into work, and so he'd just been here all the time, and I love him. I love him dearly, and I miss him, but I'm also really, really happy to just be getting time alone. It's lovely. So alone with my fiber and my garden and my trees, and yeah. I hope that you're finding comfort in things that you love doing, and I will see you next time. Bye.